It is coming up on the 1-year anniversary of when I was finally able to stop paying child support. So I thought we'd go over why I put myself on child support and how we even got there. And I'm going to give you the story right here, right now. So let's get into it. Let's pop back all the way to the year 2001 when your girl is freshly 18 years old. And I meet this cute little military Hispanic man. And we end up getting pregnant within 3 months of knowing each other. And we go through all 9 months of pregnancy. We're dating and we're committed to making this work, even though we barely even know each other. And then a week after our first daughter is born, we get married. Just a little courthouse ceremony, nothing special. I think we were just wearing regular clothes and we didn't even celebrate. I didn't even get an engagement or anything. But it was the right thing to do, and I'm very fortunate for being able to be a stay-at-home mom when my kids were really young. It was nice to enjoy those years with them, since I was in such an abrupt, rude awakening when I got divorced and was never able to be a stay-at-home mom ever again. But we were married for 8 years total, but in our 6th year of marriage, my ex-husband, who was my husband at the time, cheated on me with a girl that was one of our family friends. And I have a whole story time on that if you guys want to know all the tea. It's in one of my last videos. So go check that out if you want to know all the tea. But quite honestly, our marriage never was the same after him cheating on me. I begged for him back. I wanted our marriage to work, and to last. My parents are still married to this day, and I just felt like once you get married, you're not supposed to get divorced, and just so much. I had such low self-worth and low self-confidence. I was just not the person that I am today. I don't think that I would ever tolerate that and put up with that, nor beg for someone back. Like, how embarrassing, Rachel. It's 2024 and we're not begging for no man. And then so we end up getting a divorce, and our divorce is treacherous. It's really bad. It lasted about a year. It cost me about $10,000, and I'm very thankful my parents put the money up for me to be able to afford the divorce, and then I ended up just paying them back with one of my tax returns. But shortly after we were divorced, okay, so first when we were divorced, the girls came to live with me. Because they always lived with both of us. And then when we separated, they lived with me. And so the girls and I moved from Kentucky to North Carolina. And it was just never a thought that they would go to live with their dad. It's like the mom always gets the kids. That's what you always see on TV. And that's what I thought would happen. And even though I struggled financially, and quite honestly, I was a wreck during that time because my marriage fell apart, and now I have these 2 kids to take care of on my own and figure it all out for ourselves and for myself. And I didn't even know who Rachel was at that time. So it was so hard to do that, but I was also very happy and blessed that I was able to be the custodial parent, which afforded me about $500 to $600 in child support every month, somewhere roughly around there, which helped to ease the load of being a single mom with one paycheck. So that did help. But shortly after we got divorced, I remember my ex calling me in the middle of the day during the work day when I'm at work, and he's calling me, and the really only thing he wants to talk about on the phone is how he's gonna get the kids back. They're gonna live with him, and I'm gonna have to pay him child support. And he was very angry and very short, and he just was not happy. I don't think he was happy that in his eyes, I won. But like, there was no games to be played. I was trying to make sure that I had enough money to take care of the girls. You were the sole provider, and I didn't even really work. You know, towards the end, I worked. But then when we got separated, I couldn't go to work. So then I ended up being a stay-at-home mom, and he provided for us while we were separated, while I was trying to figure out where I was going to live next and all of that kind of stuff. So that was really fortunate. But he saw it as if I was like winning, and there was always some kind of power struggle after our divorce. And I really hated that. And I never felt like I was in the power struggle, like that I was trying to win power back or anything like that. But I could definitely tell that there was a power struggle, and that having the kids meant you had the ultimate power. And it was so difficult because I never wanted that. I always wanted to be friendly and on good terms for our own mental health sake, but also for our kids' sake. But flash forward, probably divorced for a good 5 years at this point, and my eldest decides that she wants to go live with her dad. And I didn't want to split the girls up, so eventually, after a couple of months of my eldest living with her dad, I sent my youngest to go live with their dad because I never wanted them to grow up in separate homes. They're sisters, they're blood sisters. I felt like they should be close, and I wanted them to be able to have memories and all of those kinds of things like you see sisters have on TV. I unfortunately am not very close with either one of my sisters. We just didn't grow up in that kind of house that fostered that kind of closeness. I'm not really even close to my parents. Because of all of that. So when my kids went to go live with their dad, we worked out that I would pay him $400 a month. I was working 2 jobs at the time to be able to afford to pay for my bills and to pay for that, and to try to have any bit amount of money to do things with my kids on the weekends that I did get them. So I was working about 80 hours a week between the bank job that I had and the job that I had at H.H. Gregg in the evenings after working on the weekends. I was literally working myself to death, but I was in my late to mid-20s, so I had a lot more energy than that I do now. I could not do that now. So we worked out that I would pay $400, but I couldn't pay like on a certain date every single month. Like he would want it on the 15th every month. And some days I just, if your paycheck is every 2 weeks, sometimes it doesn't fall on that certain day. And so there was times I was a couple of days behind the day that he wanted to have it. And we never had a written agreement. It was kind of like an oral agreement. And I would always tell him, like, I don't get paid until this Friday. You're going to have to wait a couple of days. I have absolutely no money to give you. And that was always a problem, always a problem. And I think it was more or less he thought that I was in charge or having some power by being able to pay him a couple of days behind the date that we had orally agreed to. And I also just felt like he wanted to be in control, and so like I wasn't following in line with his rules and his order that he wanted and stuff like that. I'm not quite sure, honestly. I'm just kind of grasping at straws why he was so angry why I wouldn't pay on a certain day sometimes. And I just couldn't. This was when the girls went to go live with their dad. They moved to Kentucky, and I stayed in North Carolina because I had a job there and I couldn't just move around and bounce around because he's in the military anymore. So the girls are living in Kentucky. I'm living in North Carolina, and it's like a living hell. And I just don't know what to do in my life because I'm tired of dealing with this narcissistic, crazy ex-husband that wants to breathe it down my neck like I was just in tears all the time and having like so many mental breakdowns because I just could not deal with that type of pressure. It wasn't like I wasn't ever paying him. I was paying him the amount that we agreed upon, just not on the day that he wanted. So I decided, you know what? I may end up paying more. And I was really stressed out about how much more I was going to end up paying, because I was going to take myself through the courts of North Carolina and just have it taken out of my paycheck. I wasn't even going to see it. Then we can just do that way, and I could sleep at night because he could never ask me again about child support. I had no control over it. Once you go through the state of North Carolina, I don't know about other states, but once you go through the state of North Carolina, they yank it out your paycheck every time you get paid. They take like half this paycheck and half this paycheck, and you never even see it, and you don't count it on your taxes. Or no, you do count it because it's part of your overall income, but it's money that you're literally just giving away, which, you know, I'm happy to be able to support my kids, but he was always a breadwinner in our marriage, and so I was always struggling to figure out, you know, I went back to school after we got divorced, and so I was trying to build up my career, and I was making only like $40,000 a month, so I was really struggling to be able to pay my own bills. And here I was paying an extra $835 a month. You know, once I went through the courts, the agreement through the court was that I was going to pay $835 a month. And that's because they ended up having a kid together. They had a son, and she had a daughter from a previous relationship. And then we had our 2 kids. And so all of those kids counted into the metric for North Carolina, the metric of how much I would owe. And because there was 2 extra mouths in his household, I had to pay more child support. So I don't freaking get it. But the system is broken, and it's so frustrating because I felt like, honestly, I was kind of paying for the extra kids. And that's not my problem. I didn't choose for him to have those kids. That was his choice, and as adults, we should be able to take care of our own responsibilities. But I ended up paying $835 a month for several years until and this was about when my kids were about 10 and 12, somewhere around there. I'm guesstimating because this was like a long time ago, considering they're 19 and 22 now. So I paid that for several years until my eldest was 18, and then I took myself back to court so that way I can take myself off of paying child support for her because she was living on her own, she was doing her own thing, and I would much rather give my kid the money directly than give it to my ex and for him to do God knows what with the money. Hopefully helping to support my children, but who knows. And it's for him to use at his sole discretion as well. We were in the courthouse for that, and I was granted a reduced amount. It was about half of what I was paying. I think I went down to about $600 a month, so technically not too much half, but they shaved off a couple $100. And when we left that courthouse, my ex was so upset. He was back talking to the judge in the court, and they ended up calling him back into the room, and I was able to go because, thank goodness, I'm not the drama queen. I do not need to cause any more of a scene. It was so embarrassing for the court to see that's who I was married to. And then my youngest daughter turned 18 just recently. I mean, she's almost 20, so it's almost been 2 years since she turned 18. And I was able to finally get myself off child support last year. What year is it now? Oh, in 2022, I was able to get myself off child support. And it was just... Actually, it happened last year because she was in high school. You need to be 18 and graduated high school. And so finally last spring, a couple months after she turned 18... she finally was able, she graduated high school, and I finally got myself off child support around the time I got laid off last year. So it all worked out perfectly. That was one less thing for me to worry about financially while I was laid off. And it has been such a blessing to not have to deal with my ex-husband. And quite honestly, I've never talked to him since our daughter graduated. I went to the graduation party at their house, and that is the last time I ever saw or spoke to my ex-husband. And it's been almost a year, and it's a blessing to have so much peace in my life. Well, I'm sharing my story in hopes that it helps one other person feel not so alone about all this, because when my kids went to go live with their dad, I felt so much like, I just felt so bad about myself. I felt icky. I felt depressed. What are people going to say about me? They're going to think that I'm on drugs or have an addiction, and that's why my kids don't live with me. And it was just so embarrassing. But probably no one cared as much as I cared. And I wish that I had YouTube. I know YouTube was around, but I wasn't on YouTube. But I wish I had gotten on YouTube back then and shared my story, because I've actually met several women that have been in my position, and I felt like I was the only one, and it caused me to be so closed off from everyone because I thought I was the only one. And being on the internet has opened up my horizons, that I am not the only one that is going through these traumatic experiences in life. And I just want to be able to build community and share my story in hopes that it reaches one other woman out there that's going through the same thing or went through the same similar situation, and know that you are not alone. And we are in this together, and we are strong, and we are going to rock this, and we're going to conquer all of these demons and traumas. But wild ride. Be prepared. It's a wild ride. But I know that you got it, because if I can get through all of this, you can get through all of this. And I love y'all for hanging with me, and I will talk to you later. Bye.